far as the first session is concerned. Okay. Now, before directly kick starting with what is AI and all, okay, we need to understand what is human intelligence. Okay. So we'll start with what they call it as human intelligence. Okay. I don't know. Again, it would have been better if you would have enjoyed the right to unmute, because I would love to interact with you, because NEP orientation sensitization is all about deliberation and you can say your reflections on the philosophy. But anyway, one thing I have understood that it's not possible for you to unmute. So I'll continue, and then later on at the end I'll take up your questions. Okay, and at that point of time I may request your organizer to allow you to unmute yourself. Right. So as I said, that is, we will start with human intelligence. So human intelligence, if you look at, okay, it is that is the God Almighty has given us various peculiar characteristics that makes her different from all other living species on the earth. Okay, and what are those attributes? Okay, if you just try to look at, those attributes are humans' ability to learn. Okay, that is learning capabilities or learning abilities. Second is reasoning capabilities, that is whenever you take some or the other decision, okay, we can very well justify that how we have arrived at that particular decision. Okay, so reasoning capability is the second important aspect. And as I said that we are capable of learning. Okay, so once you have been trained in a particular area, okay, we as a human being, we are capable of navigating novel or challenging situation. Let me elaborate further on this dimension. Okay, let's say whenever you want to learn something new, okay, most of the time we learn in a very idealistic environment. Okay, I'll give you one example of, let's say, whenever you want to learn how to drive a car. Okay, most of the time whenever you undergo training, okay, the driving school people normally take you to either on highways or in playground. Okay, so wherein you have very idealistic kind of a situation wherein there is no traffic at all and so on. But whenever you drive, you will not face that kind of situation all the time. Okay, so what do you do? Okay, let's say if you have undergone a training, now you are a driving license holder. Okay, and when you are driving a car in a downtown kind of a situation wherein you are facing huge traffic. Okay, so what do you do? Whether you call your trainer, or you apply the knowledge whatever you have acquired and you take your own decision. Okay, driving in those conditions. So that is we are capable of. Okay, so we as a human being, we are capable of learning, reasoning, navigating novel or challenging situation, and so on and so forth. Right. So, having said this, let's say if we can incorporate these things into a machine, more specifically into a computer, we may call that machine or that computer as an artificially intelligent machine. Right. So, on the similar line, let's say if you simply look at what is AI, so AI is nothing but the study of mechanism that think and act like human. That is, to put it in very straightforward words, mimicking human behavior. Okay, so the another peculiar characteristic which has come up in case of AI is the thinking capabilities. Okay, that is learning, thinking, and decision making capabilities, right? And why do we try to achieve this? Is the objective is to simply mimic human behavior. Okay, now human behavior covers all those aspects whatever we have seen in case of human intelligence and so on. Right. Now, having said this, how do we achieve this? Okay. And what are the, you can say from the AI perspective, uh, when you will call a particular machine as an intelligent machine, right? So, whenever you wish to call any machine as an intelligent machine, we have to have some primary or peculiar characteristics present in them, right? Say, for example, the very first one is the intelligence itself. That is, system must perform some meaningful operation. Okay, that is what do we understand by intelligence, right? Then the machine should be capable of interpreting information, right? interpreting information, drawing inferences, then comprehending the relation between the phenomena or object. Let's say if I give you relationship between x and y and z, so you can very well deduce the relationship between x and z. Okay, because you very well know the relationship between x and y and z, right? So we can draw inference, that is comprehension. And last but not the least is the applies the acquired information to new condition, that is whatever knowledge you acquire during training or learning. Okay, these machines, they should be able to apply that knowledge into altogether new condition, as I've elaborated when we were talking about human intelligence. Okay, wherein we have talked about, that is applying or taking decision, whatever you have learned during the learning phase, into some challenging situation. Okay, so let's say if we, some way or the other, if we are in a position to incorporate these four characteristics into a machine or into a system, we may call that system as an intelligent system. Right. Now, having said this, we'll go a little further and we'll just try to understand how this technology has evolved and so on. Right. Now, if you look at the historical perspective of this AI, you will be surprised to note that this is not at all new. Okay, if you look at the historical perspective, you will find that this term, that is AI or artificial intelligence or कृत्रिम बुद्धिमत्ता याला आपण मराठीत म्हणतो, right? uh, it was very first time tossed way back in 1956. So 44 years plus 26 years, right? So roughly 70 odd years have passed, right? And when it was tossed in an event, okay, which took place at Dartmouth, that is United Kingdom. There is a premier institute, okay, which is known as the place of birth of this technology, that is Dartmouth AI workshop. That was the title of that workshop, which took place in 1956, and it was attended by the, you can say, the John McCarthy, who happens to be the very first person who has tossed this term very first time in that conference. Okay, wherein he talked about AI, right? So it is not at all new, right? So that is what they call it as the traditional AI. Okay, but gradually what has happened, things have changed drastically, right? So those things were little bit having little bit scope in terms of application and so on, but the things have improved, okay, on a larger scale. And then we will just try to have a look at various dimensions. Okay, we'll just try to see not only all these four aspects, but we'll just try to understand, that is, what are the issues associated with these things, okay, and why this, even though 70 odd years have passed, why these things have not taken up that much pace in terms of development and so on. But recent 5 to 7 years, you must have seen that there are a lot of applications which are built on this application. So what has happened due to the evolution of fast hardware? Okay, earlier we used to have very slow machines. I very well remember when I started uh, working on AI way back in 1995-96. I very well remember when I did my masters. Okay, so we used to have 80386 machine those days with very limited amount of RAM and so on. So the training time those days was in days. Okay, now you can train the machine within hours, I tell you. Look, despite of the, you can say, the complexity of the problem and so on. So the very first AI system was what they call it as the traditional AI. So we'll just try to understand what this traditional AI is all about, right? So traditional AI, if you look at the bookish definition, it gives the computer ability to do tasks that traditionally only humans have been able to do. Okay, okay, that is meaning thereby whatever human expert, to be very specific, used to adopt for a strategy for solving a particular problem, right? Those things were, as it is, automated by means of this traditional AI. And how this has been achieved? This has been achieved by asking the human expert, that is how they do it, right? Write down all those things in the form of if then else rules, and explicitly program these rules into a computer. I'll give you some pretty simple example which will make your idea clear. So if you look at the earlier AI system or the traditional AI systems, those systems were called as expert system. Okay, why they used to call those things as an expert system? Let's say you want to automate or copy the way in which a homeopath practitioner used to practice his or her, you can say the way they used to handle the patients, and they used to diagnose the disease and then go for the prescriptions. So those things were gathered from the human experts, and those things were written in the forms of if then else rules, right? So the typical example of this traditional AI is what they call it as playing chess. Okay, you must have heard about that as world chess champion. They used to play against computers. Okay. So the computers were capable of analyzing all the moves, possible moves. Then the computer used to take some or the other move based on the if then else rules. On the similar line, homeopath expert, or if you want to look at the same thing from a very, you can say the systematic application point of view, is nothing but the washing machine. Okay, so what is there in the washing machine? Say, for example, you want to automate how do we wash clothes. Okay, so if you look at the, you can say the washing mechanism, okay, it is pretty simple because here we are dealing with hardly 3 to 4 parameters. So if you devise around 27 or 30 odd rules, you can very well automate that job. Okay, what is there in case of a washing machine? Let's say if you simply examine the type of clothes, depending upon the type of clothes, what kind of decision you take decision how much detergent is to be mixed, then you take decision how much hot and cold water is supposed to be mixed, then what kind of washing mechanism one has to apply, whether you want to wash it with a hard wash or a soft wash or a gentle wash and so on. So what we can do, we can devise some 27 odd rules. We can embed those rules into a microcontroller, and we put that microcontroller in action. Okay, in case of a washing machine, so what that microcontroller will do, moment you switch it on, it will take control of all the components installed in that washing machine, and it will automate that job. Okay, so what I'm trying to emphasize here is that is in case of traditional AI, what we used to do, we used to contact the expert working in that domain. Okay, simply ask them how do they solve a particular problem, and write down those things in the form of simple if then else rules, and devise a system what they used to call as the expert system, right? And then use that expert system for diagnosing a disease, or maybe playing chess, or maybe automating a washing machine kind of a scenario, right? But there were limitation as far as this traditional AI was concerned. Okay, now we'll just try to look at all those limitations or the issues when it comes to the traditional AI. Okay, so the very first issue was it was time intensive. That is, in case of, let's say, the homeopathy practitioners, right? So you have around 10,000 odd rules. Okay, so definitely for searching all those rules, it will definitely consume certain amount of time. So it was very time intensive, right? Large rule bases was the reason behind that. Then it doesn't generalize to new situation. Say, for example, a homeopathy expert system which you have built using that repertory, and you are facing a COVID-19 kind of a scenario, right? So what will happen in that case? Okay, because that kind of, you can say the rules are not formulated which will deal a COVID-19 kind of a scenario. So what it will do, it will search all the entire database or the rule base, and it may come up, well, I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to diagnose the disease because it is beyond the scope of my rule base, right? So that is what is the meaning of it doesn't generalize to new situation. So if you expose the system to something new, it won't be able to give you the solution. Okay, then the third important aspect is we as a human being know more than we tell. Okay, many times it is not possible to explicitly elaborate on all the aspect of your decision making. Okay, many times we call it as intuition or based on our experiences and so on, right? So it is bit difficult to code it since we are not in a position to explain. And as I've told you, that is these systems are built while interacting with the experts working in that domain. Let's say that expert himself is not, you can say, revealing the way in which he or she used to solve a particular problem, okay, he or she is not in a position to explicitly spell out the strategy, okay, what they used to adopt, how you will frame those things in the form of if then else rules. Then the fourth important aspect is we cannot write down rules for all possible situations. So this you may call it as the corollary of the earlier point, that is we know more than we tell, right? So it's simply impossible to write down all the rules for all possible situation, and that too when you are dealing with a very complex problem. ठीक है ना? अगर आपका जैसे वॉशिंग मशीन टाइप का प्रॉब्लम है विच इज प्रिटी सिंपल, देन डेफिनेटली इट्स पॉसिबल टू डिवाइस ऑल द रूल्स. But let's say if you are dealing with a COVID-19 kind of a scenario, or maybe any other problem wherein the complexity is very high, then in that case it is simply impossible to write down rules for all possible situation. And this is technically what they call it as the combinatorial explosion. Okay, so if the number of parameters are huge, it may lead to millions of combinations. Okay, that is what they call it as the combinatorial explosion. So if the problems are simple, then these traditional AI systems were really good at solving those kind of a problem. But once the problem's complexity increases, these traditional AI systems, most of the time, they fail to address those issues effectively, right? So, having said this, this was the issue with regard to the traditional AI. Apart from this, there were issues like, say, black boxes, huge number crunching, and it typically uses, as I said, large rule bases, so which is very time consuming and time intensive, right? So this has led to what they call it as the second era of this AI, what they call it as the machine learning. Now, whatever AI we are referring to as on date, it is nothing but machine learning or ML in short. So, what is ML that we will see, right? What is machine learning? We'll just try to understand. So, instead of explicitly telling the computer what to do, as we used to do in case of traditional AI, what we used to do there, we used to write down explicit if then else rules to solve a particular problem. So instead of adopting that approach, now what we are doing in this case, we provide computers with lots of examples of inputs and outputs. Okay, lots of examples meaning thereby inputs and outputs meaning thereby, let's say if you are dealing with a medical diagnosis kind of a scenario, so you will have all the symptoms, maybe around 30, 40 odd symptoms, along with the values of all those symptoms, along with the output. Let's say if the value of all these 50 systems is like this, the disease is some xyz. If it is like this, it is abc and so on. So if you know, if you have this input and output data set, okay, what we used to call it as a data set, okay, before you can say starting anything on computers, if that kind of a scenario is there, okay, if you know the input, if you know the output, what we can do, we can feed these values to a computer and apply some statistical techniques. Okay, and what is the objective of applying any statistical techniques is to learn the relationship between input and output. Okay, so what exactly we are trying to do in this case is we are not programming as we used to do in case of a traditional AI, wherein we used to write down if then else rules. Instead of doing so, we are feeding this input output data sets, okay, to the machine and applying some statistical technique. And what is the objective of that statistical technique is to learn the relationship between input and output. So, see, if you fed this way around 10,000 or 50,000 odd record to a computer and apply some statistical techniques, what it will do, it will just try to learn some kind of relationship between input and output, right? And that is what is called as machine learning. So, the very first aspect one has to understand is here we are not explicitly programming. Okay, instead we are what we are doing, we are feeding the computers with lots of inputs and output data pair, and then we are applying some or the other statistical technique. Now what are all those possibilities that we will see in the slides to come. So the machine learning techniques, again, it is most of the time we feel that neural network is the only approach. Definitely neural network is there, but that is not the only way in which the machine learn. So how do they learn? They learn by using any of these. Again, this is again indicative list. There are many. Okay, so any of these, you can say the statistical techniques, like say linear regression, logistic regression, classification and regression, support vector machine or SVM in short, then random forest or gradient descent, and last but not the least is the neural networks, which is the most popular one. Okay, we will definitely try to have a look at neural networks in detail, right? But one has to understand that it is not the only way the machine basically learn, right? Machine learning is possible by means of n number of ways and means, right? So there are numerous techniques available for machine learning. Okay, the statistical technique more specifically, like say linear regression and so on. Okay, now again the beauty of this, you can say the machine learning is, now we feel that this concept is altogether new, but if you look at particularly the gradient descent approach, if you look at the mathematics behind it, it was it was very first time proposed way back in 1846 by some renowned mathematician. I don't remember his name right now, but the concept has evolved way back in 1846, right? So if you feel like that AI is completely new, it is not at all like that. It has a strong history of around 150 odd years, right? And it requires a lot of mathematics at the back end. Okay, it requires a lot of mathematics at the back end. Now we'll just try to understand how neural networks are typically used for machine learning and so on. So again, but before directly jumping into all those things, we need to understand what are the problems or issues associated with machine learning. Okay, in case of machine learning, the only problem is we have to have structured data. Now what do I mean by structured data? That is the data which can be numeralized. मतलब हमें डेटा किस फॉर्म में चाहिए? नंबर्स के फॉर्म में चाहिए, और टू बी वेरी स्पेसिफिक, बिटवीन नंबर्स बिटवीन 0 and 1. Okay, that is what is the meaning of structured data. Now you may say, sir, in case of medical diagnosis, it is not possible that all the parameters will be numeralized. Some of the or rather most of the parameters are numeralized, but in some case you may get some text, right? Or some certain things like say very low, very high, very all those kind of scenarios are possible, right? Something which is in forms of word. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to translate those things into numbers. Okay, because that is what is the meaning of numeralization. Okay, numeralized meaning thereby you have to have numbers. Words will not work. We'll just try to understand that is how to compute with words later on with some beautiful examples. But what is the primary condition that you have to have when you are dealing with machine learning is data must be numeralized. Now this can be achieved, okay, by what they call it as pre-processing of data. Okay, and again, as I'm telling you repeatedly, that is, you have to have values of all those variables between 0 and 1. Say for example, in some parameters, if you are getting values in hundreds or in thousands, so what we need to do in that case is we need to divide those numbers by appropriate constants, okay, so that we get values between 0 and 1. Say for example, if certain things are in hundreds, okay, so what you can do, you can divide it by 100, okay, so that you will get something in the form of 0.123 or something like that, right? So that is what is the part of pre-processing. So that is again a fair overhead associated with machine learning. Okay, so before feeding those things into a computer, you need to pre-process that data. Okay, and why do we pre-process data? Because we have to have structured data for machine learning. Okay, data which can only be numeralized. Okay, text data will won't work over there, right? Now how do we achieve that? That again we'll see with the help of when we will discuss, that is computing with words and so on. So machine learning, again, it was having some problems, some or the other problems, right, associated with it, right? But before moving ahead to other dimensions of AI, okay, let us try to understand some basic concepts. Okay, if you look at the, you can say the traditional way of solving problems using computer is, what we do is, in case of computer science, is we use hard computing. Now, what do I mean by hard computing? That is, we use precise model, we have exact values of the variable, and then what do? We manipulate those variables. Okay, we perform some or the other computation so as to get the desired result. That is, hard computing typically uses precise values of certain variables. You manipulate those variables, you use symbolic logic reasoning, and typically we use here bivalent logic. That is, either something is true or something is false. But in case of AI based approach, or what they call it as the soft computing approach, we follow altogether different approach for solving any problem. And what is that approach? Is to use approximate model. Okay, we are not using here precise model, rather we are using approximate model. Okay, let me elaborate further on this dimension. That is, what do I mean by approximate model? Okay, if you look at human decision making, it is always based on approximation. I'll give you some examples which will make your idea a little bit more clear. Let's say you are in a parking lot, है ना, आपने एक आधे मॉल में आप गाड़ी लेके गए हैं, आप पार्किंग लॉट में हैं, आपको गाड़ी पार्क करनी है। अब आप ये डिसीजन कैसे लेते हैं? देयर आर हंड्रेड्स ऑफ व्हीकल्स ऑलरेडी पार्क्ड, नाउ यू हैव a little bit space available for you, and you want to take that decision whether it is possible to park in that area or not, right? So what do? Whether you get down from the car, then you measure the amount of space available to you, okay, by a measuring tape, and then you draw your car to that the desired location, or you take decision the other way around based on approximation. So most of the time we take decision based on approximation. Or the, let's say, let's consider another example. Let's say you are on a highway, okay, and you want to overtake a car, which is, or a vehicle which is just in front of you. Now, how do you take this decision? Whether you ask the other fellow to stop his or her vehicle, and then you get down and then you measure the exact space of amount of space available to you, and then you push the accelerator. Or other way around, you take decision based on approximation. So we do take all these decisions based on approximation. That is, approximate values. Okay. So that is why there is a possibility. That is, whenever you follow this strategy, there is a possibility that whatever decision you take, it is subject to right or wrong, right? Maybe right, or if you are able to overtake, or let's say if something is wrong, you may collide with some hazard which is there in between, right? So approximate reasoning, right? We use approximate reasoning in case of this AI based approach. And here what do? We use functional approximation and randomized search. That is, we need not search the entire database as we used to do in case of hard computing. And the another point of departure is between hard computing and soft computing is, that is, here we do not use what they call it as the uh, conventional logic or bivalent logic. That is, either something is true or something is false. Rather, we use multivalent logic. Now, what do I mean by multivalent logic? We are exploring the possibilities between 0 and 1. 0 and 1 is inclusive. Okay, true and false are inclusive, but we are also exploring the possibilities between 0 and 1. That is what is the meaning of, you can say, the approximate modeling and so on. So hard computing and soft computing, it is a paradigm shift. Okay, it is a paradigm shift. Now we'll just try to have a look at a very concrete definition of soft computing or AI. Okay, what is it? It is the symbiotic use of many emerging problem solving disciplines. Now you name the area, you will find application of this soft computing in that case, right? And how it has been defined. Okay, how it has been defined by Professor Lutfi Ali Zadeh, who is also referred to as father of soft computing. That is, in contrast to traditional hard computing. That is what I was referring to. It was a paradigm shift, complete paradigm shift from traditional hard computing. In contrast to traditional hard computing, soft computing exploits the tolerance for imprecisions. That is, in this case, we are dealing with imprecise knowledge, uncertainty, right? The world is full of uncertainties. I don't know whether you have seen that movie, what they call it as Luck, okay, starring Sanjay Dutt, probably, right? So that, and leave apart that luck, but most of the time, our Bollywood hero is all the time a lucky guy, right? So uncertainty and partial truth, meaning thereby something is true or something is false. That was the strategy we used to have in case of traditional computing. Here we are talking about partial truth, meaning thereby everything is true to the degree of some truthfulness. It is not 100% true or 100% false. So we are talking about those gray areas between 0 and 1. And what is the objective? Objective is to achieve solutions which are tractable, robust, low cost, and better report with reality. Why I'm saying low cost? Okay, as you can see in case of washing machine, okay, the cost of that microcontroller is not more than 700 or 800 bucks, right? Indian rupees. Okay, so by investing 1,000 rupees, you can convert a semi-automatic or a dumb machine into an intelligent machine. Okay, for that purpose, same analogy can be applied to your air conditioner or microwave oven and many of the electronic gadgets, right? So by putting some 1,000 rupees extra, you can convert a machine which is a dumb machine from dumb to an intelligent machine. Okay, that is why I said low cost, right? So this soft computing has got basically four constituents. And what is the objective? Objective is to mimic human linguistic reasoning. Now, what are the constituents of soft computing? Fuzzy systems, neural networks, evolutionary computing, and probabilistic reasoning. Right now, each one of them they are good in some or the other area. है ना, जैसे हम समझने की कोशिश करेंगे इन केस ऑफ वॉशिंग मशीन यू कैन वेरी वेल यूज फजी लॉजिक. Okay, that's why you must have seen the earlier automatic fully automatic machines were labeled as fuzzy enabled washing machine or fuzzy enabled intelligent washing machine, something like that. Okay, then neural networks they are capable of learning. Okay, so each one of them they are good in these are the four pillars of this AI or the soft computing approach. Okay, and they are good in some or the other area. For example, fuzzy systems are good when you are dealing with imprecise knowledge, as I have told you in case of washing machine. Neural networks they are capable of learning, so learning capabilities are due to neural networks. Probabilistic reasoning when you are dealing with uncertainty. And evolutionary computing is typically used when you are dealing with a optimization kind of a problem. Now, depending upon the complexity of the problem, you may have a hybrid combination of any two or any three as per your own need, right? So we have systems like say neurofuzzy systems or probabilistic reasoning neural network or probabilistic reasoning fuzzy and so on, right? So it all depends what kind of problem you are dealing with, right? So having said this, each one of them they are good in some or the other area, right? Now we'll just try to understand one simple aspect of this AI, okay, which has changed the you can say the way we used to compute earlier. Okay, now here I would love to have your inputs, but I don't know whether it is possible for you to interact. But this concept will just try to understand with a pretty simple example. Our objective is to understand: is it possible to compute with word? Okay, word meaning thereby English like statements. Okay, my intention is to compute Rekha's age, and with regard to the lady called Rekha under consideration, I am providing you a information set I, that is proposition P1 is Rekha has a son in mid 20s, and proposition P2 is Rekha has a daughter in mid 30s. And proposition P3, which is known to every one of us, that is usually mother's age at birth of child is between approximately 20 or asterisk 20 for short and approximately 40 or asterisk 40 for short. Now, with this much of information, is it possible to compute Rekha's age? The very first thing is I say either yes or no. And let's say if it is yes, what is her age? Now, I presume that you don't have any right to unmute yourself, okay, but you can very well put your responses in the chat box. I hope you have understood what we are trying to understand here. We are trying to digest a simple concept of AI, what they call it as computing with words. Okay, and this was very first time tossed by Lutfi Ali Zadeh, and the paper was from computing with numbers to computing with words. Right, that was the title of the paper. And there is a beautiful story, motivational story associated with this paper as well, that I will share you later on. But let us try to focus on whether it is possible to solve this particular one, whether it is possible to compute Rekha's age by this much information. If it is yes, what is Rekha's age? Okay, now I'm looking at your responses in the uh, chat, wherein I'm simply looking at yes, 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 yes. So attendance is going on. Okay, but apart from attendance, okay, uh, I hope you people are with me. Okay, it's a good number. 43 odd participants are there in the meeting. So I'll be happy to simply see. Yes, roll number one. Again, you are giving attendance. Okay, attendance. Your attendance is very well monitored. Zoom is a platform wherein it will record uh, everything. Right. So, what do you feel? Anyone who would like to respond? All right, not an issue. Right. If you have decided that you will not. Yes, 47% attendance is still going on, no issues. So we can very well solve this. Okay, how to solve it? Okay, that we'll see. Okay, so we what we need to do is we need to apply a simple process. Okay, or a simple operation. Okay, I'll not go very technical. Okay, because I know that you are from different discipline. Okay, as I said that I'll be keeping my deliberation on a very fundamental level. Okay, so I'm making two statements with regard to a lady called Rekha. I'm not giving you any number, and still we want to compute Rekha's age. So what we can do, we can apply a small operation, what they call it as appreciation, to these raw facts. That is proposition P1, P2, and P3. Okay. So let us apply. Let us try to convert this information set I into appreciated raw fact. Okay, that is I star. Okay, so how we can do that? Okay, so P1, that Rekha has a son in mid 20s. This can be very well translated or appreciated as P1 star. Age son is asterisk 25 because she has a son in mid 20s. That is meaning thereby age son is asterisk 25. On the similar line, she has a daughter in mid 30s. So we can convert that P2 to P2 star as age daughter is asterisk 35. Okay, and the third one, which is the word knowledge, wherein we are saying that is usually the mother's age at birth is between 20 or asterisk 20 for short, or asterisk 40 or 40 for short, right? So that P3, that is usually the mother's age at birth of child is between approximately 20 or asterisk 20 for short, and so on. That can be translated like this. Now, what our objective is? Our objective is to compute Rekha's age. Okay, so that can be done quite easily. Age Rekha is, we can apply a aggregation function, asterisk 25 plus usually asterisk 20 comma asterisk 40, fusion asterisk 35 plus usually asterisk 20 comma asterisk 40. Okay, so this will give you, I don't know now whether you can come up with the answer. Let me check whether somebody has still attendance, no other activity, no issue, right? Anyway, so you can very well compute that her age is, because she has a age, daughter is asterisk 35, and we know that is usually the mother's age of birth is between 20 to 40. So 20 plus 35 you can very well add up, and her age is 55 to be very precise, right? So it is possible to compute with word. And somewhere I said that I'll share some story with regard to this. So what has happened when Professor Zadeh presented this idea, that is from computing with numbers to computing with words? Okay, and it was a very fantastic papers in terms of contribution in an international conference, and that conference was chaired. That is, the session chair for that conference was one of the renowned. system scientist, that is Rudolf Kalman. Okay, those who are from electronics background, they must be well acquainted with this fellow. Okay, so he was chairing that session. So he has brutally criticized Professor Zade's work. He said that this fellow has gone mad, right? Okay, he is talking something which is completely rubbish. Okay, और जिसे हम हिंदी में कहेंगे कि भाई मुंगेरी लाल के सपने, he was involved in what they call it as daydreaming kind of an activity, right? So it was heavily criticized. But what has happened, this small concept has given solution to lot of problems which we are witnessing in one complete of area of AI is there, what we call it as the natural language processing, or NLP in short, right? So what is precision? Precision is basically meaning plays an essential role in CW. Okay, तो हमने एक प्रिसीजन का ऑपरेशन देखा, उसको कैसे कंप्यूट करना है, वर्ड्स को नंबर्स में कन्वर्ट करना है, सो दैट यू गेट something which is ready for computation, right? So you need to convert those English like statement into what they call it as the computation ready word, okay, which can be processed by a computer, okay, to arrive at a particular solution, right? So appreciation is nothing but the modelization. So if you can modelize any problem by using this kind of a concept or extending this concept to any kind of a problem, you can very well solve most of the natural language processing problems or NLP problems. Okay, so based on this small concept, there are hundreds of applications which are built what they call it as the natural language based systems modeling, specification and optimization. Okay, then decision analysis is the another area. Okay, then question answering systems, which you are witnessing every now and then whenever you visit any website. Okay, you find some or the other chatbot appearing and asking you to please how may I help you. Okay, and most of your queries, okay, earlier which used to be handled by some human being, okay, 10 years down the line, now those things are completely automated by the development of this chatbot. Okay, so in the second session we'll just try to explore this dimension as well. Okay, wherein we will see that is how to build agentic AI or chatbot, okay, for solving any particular problem, right? So this is the power of this AI, right? So anyway, we were talking about traditional AI, then machine learning, wherein we have talked about that is in case of machine learning, what do? We apply some or the other statistical techniques and train the computer to learn the relationship between input and output. Okay, so let us look at this machine learning in a little bit more detail. So it gives the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. Now this aspect one has to uh, really note. Okay, that is in case of traditional AI, we used to explicitly program in the form of if then else statements. Now here we are not going for any explicit programming. Rather, we are feeding input output dataset, numeralized or structured data to the machine and asking the machine to learn on its own by using some or the other statistical techniques. So these algorithms typically follow programmed instruction but can also make predictions or decision based on the data. So it will predict the future. I'll show you the power of this, okay, later on. Okay, say for example, if to any LLM, if you give that everything that glitters, okay, it will come up with it's not gold, right? Something like that. So that power is there within these machine learning capabilities, right? So having said this, let us try to understand. As I said, that is most popular statistical technique is what they call it as the neural network. Okay, so neural networks are structured which are basically inspired by the biological brain, right? That is how our brain is basically organized. Okay, based on that, this structure has been created. That is what they call it as the neural network. Okay, so what is it? It is a circuit composed of a very large number of simple processing elements that are neurally based. Okay, as in case of you can say the biological human brain. Okay, we have millions of neurons and they are connected with each other, and then they work in a coherent manner to take some or the other decision, right? So each element operates asynchronously, thus there is no overall system clock. Okay, that is one other important aspect of this neural network one has to note. Apart from this, if you look at neural networks in terms of their capabilities, these systems or these artificial neural systems are capable of acquiring new knowledge, that is knowledge acquisition, then storing that knowledge, okay, in some synaptic strength or synaptic weight, and utilizing that knowledge for future decision making. Okay, so knowledge acquisition, as we have in case of human brain, okay, then the learning capabilities during learning, it requires certain knowledge, stores that knowledge in the neurons, and it utilizes that knowledge for some you can say the decision making perspective, right? So these three important dimensions are present in case of a neural network. Now if you look at the application areas of neural networks, there are many. Okay, rather you name the area, you will find the application of neural networks are there, like say starting from linguistic to philosophy to cognitive psychology to neurobiology or computer science, mathematics, physics. Again, this is an indicative diagram, right? You name the area, that's why I said, okay, you will find application of these neural networks or machine learning, right? So having said this, let us see that is how these neurons have been developed, right? So as I said, these artificial neural networks or ANN in short, they are inspired from biological neuron. So what is there in a biological neuron? Just try to have a look at it. Okay, in case of a biological neuron, we call this as a one neuron or a motor neuron to be very specific. Then this neuron has got dendrites, okay, which are typically used for providing the input to that particular neuron, okay, and then the output, it goes through what they call it as the axon, okay, then this output is given as input to the next neuron in the structure and so on, right? So axon is the output, the androids through which we provide the input, and we have a cell body wherein we compute something or the other. Okay, so on the similar line, we have a artificial neural network. Okay, what is it? This x1 and x2 represents the, this is the single layer perceptron. This is the simplest possible structure, okay, in case of neural network. Okay, why we are calling it as single layer? Because there is only one layer, okay, and perceptron is the name, okay, given to this particular architecture. So x1 and x2, these are the two neurons. With each neuron there is a weight associated. Now what is this weight? This weight is responsible for that learning capabilities, okay. So whenever we train these neural network, during training these weights are basically normalized, okay, and in case of a biological neuron, this is nothing but the synaptic strength, okay, associated with that particular neuron, okay. So that is depicted by this w1 and w2, and it is called as the weight, synaptic weight, to be very specific, okay. So what do? We compute this output, which is a summation of x1 into w1 plus x2 into w2, okay. And what do we do while applying this neural network? What is our objective? Our objective is to learn some kind of a relationship between output and input. Now what is output here? Y is the output, and x1 and x2 are the input. So let's say if you are able to devise a equation like this, that is y is equal to 0.32 x1 plus 0.77 x2, you have done your job. The training is over. Then when what do? We fed this with some new input. Okay, it will multiply with this constant, and you will get some or the other output. Okay, so it is very similar to your human decision making, right? So artificial neural network, it is inspired from a biological neuron, okay. So information processing system, neuron processes the information, the signals are transmitted by connection link, okay. So the signals are transmitted, these arrow indicates that these are the connection link, so they are transmitted by connection link. Then the link possesses an associated weight, that is what I was referring to, or a synaptic weight or a strength, which is typically denoted by small w, okay. Then output signal is obtained by applying activation function to the net input, okay. Now here what do? Before giving the output to the you can say the output layer, we pass it through some non-linearity. Okay, there is a lot of mathematics involved, but I'll put it in the best possible manner. I'll try to simplify it as simple as possible. There are various activation function, like say hard limiter is there, then ReLU is there. Okay, sigmoidal, which is one of the most popular activation function. So for simplicity, we need to understand that we are passing that output, whatever is the output, that is summation of x1 w1 plus x2 w2, through that linearity. And what is the objective? Objective is to get something as the desired output, right? Now this is a single layer. Now in case of multi-layer, what do we have? We have from x0 to xn. Let's say if you are dealing with a handwritten numeral kind of a problem. Okay, so you are extracting, let us assume that you are extracting 40 or 45 odd features. So what we will do, whatever are the values of those features, we will fed those values after pre-processing through this x0 to x40, or let's say if it is 40 only, then x0 to x39, because 0 inclusive. Okay, so all those values will be fed here. Then with each x0 there is a w0 associated, right? So x0 w0, x1 w1, similarly x39 w39. Okay, then what do? We compute a summation. Okay, weighted sum, what we call it as, that is, this summation is equal to xi wj. Okay, I equals to 1 to n and j equals to 1 to n. Okay, and then we compute the weighted sum. Okay, and what do? We pass that weighted sum through some non-linearity, that is the activation function. Okay, wherein there are again numerous possibilities, like say sigmoidal, okay, hard limiter, and so on and so forth. Okay, then you get some or the other output. So in the first run, let us assume, now I'm trying to explain in the best possible manner, that is how the training takes place. So the input, whatever values you have extracted from that handwritten numeral, 40 odd parameters, okay, those things will be fed here. Okay, and we start with a random weight during training, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's say you are starting, as I said, these values, these variables can acquire values between 0 and 1. So let us presume that we are starting with a value of zero point 0.5 for all the weights w0 to w39. Okay, we compute the weighted sum, passes it through some non-linearity, and then you get some output. Okay, let's say the desired output is 1.0, whereas the actual output you are getting is 0.75. So meaning thereby there is an error of 0.25. Now what we can do in the second run? Okay, this is called as one iteration or one epoch. Okay, one iteration or one epoch. Now we cannot change the inputs. Okay, input will remain constant. The only thing we can change is to change the value of this w0. Okay, so normally what do? We modify this w0. We add some w delta, small delta w into all these variables. Okay, and either add it or subtract it. Let's say you have started with zero point 0.5, so you will go either way. Let us assume that you are incrementing it by zero point 0.1, so zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.6. Let us assume all the value as zero point 0.6. Earlier it was zero point 0.5, and then once again observe the result. Let's say the actual output is now, earlier it was 0.75, now you are getting zero point 0.8. Okay, and the difference, earlier it was 0.25, that has been reduced to zero point 0.2. Earlier it was 0.25, now it has been reduced to zero point 0.2, because zero point 0.8, as I have told you, desired output is 1.0, so 1.0 minus zero point 0.8 comes out to be 0.2. So it is reducing, meaning thereby you are in the right direction. So what do? We go on increasing the value of these weights till we get the desired output actual equal to the actual output, right? Or wherein the error is bare minimum. Okay, it is minimal. Okay, and then say once you have achieved that, you stop at that point of time and you declare that the training is over. Okay, and then what do? You expose the network or the neural network with altogether new value. Okay, ask it to classify or predict whatever is the objective, and then it computes, okay, and it gives you the it will never ever come up with a no match kind of a situation. It will give you some or the other value as the output. Okay, that value, I'm not saying that it will be always correct. Okay, it may be right or wrong. Okay, so that is again there. So this is how the training takes place. Okay, it is called as per sample updating, that is updating the weights and biases after the presentation of each sample. Okay, per training set updating, meaning thereby what they call it as the epoch or iteration, that is when you cycle through from input to the output is called as one iteration or one epoch, right? So this is one epoch or one iteration, you may call it as. So this way you may set the value of epoch as 500, 1000, 10,000, depending upon the complexity and so on. Okay, so that is called as the training time, and the amount of time required for training is known as the training time. Okay, now how one neuron is connected with the another one, that will determine the network architecture. Okay, what they call it as the connection between neurons. Okay, setting the weights, I have already told you, that is how the training takes place. The objective of activation functions I've already revealed. There are various possibilities, 10h, and there are hundreds of activation functions. It all depends what kind of problem you are dealing with. Okay, so but most popular one, as I've already told you, relu. Okay, then the second one is the sigma. Okay, or sigmoidal function, what they call it as. Okay, which is a S-shaped curve. Okay, and then hard limiter, and there are many. Okay, it all depends what kind of problem you are dealing with. Now how one neuron or neurons are associated with each other, that will determine the architecture of that neural network. Okay, say for example, this is a single layer feed forward. Why I'm saying single layer? Because one input and one output layer. Okay, one input and one output layer, right? Now this is multi-layer feed forward, that is one input, one output, and in between you have some hidden layer. Okay, in between you have some hidden layer. Okay, now again, no one should not ask me, sir, how many hidden layer we must have, what is the objective of hidden layer? The objective of hidden layer is to provide some non-linearity, so that the convergence or training takes place on a you can say higher speed. That is the only objective, right? But how many neurons and how many layers you must have, okay, it all depends upon the trial and error. There is no hard coded rule, or there is no thumb rule that is for these many neurons in the input layer, these many neurons in the output layer, you have to have these many hidden layers with these many neurons, right? So that is not the case. Okay, you have to experiment. Okay, then fully recurrent network. Okay, as you can see here, all the neurons are connected with each other. That's why the name fully recurrent network. Competitive network. Okay, then you have a Jordan network, simple recurrent network, and so on. So there are various possibilities. So how these input output neurons along with the hidden layer, how they are organized, or how they are connected with each other, that will determine the architecture of that neural network. Having said this, let us try to understand the basic properties of these layers. Okay, so input layer, as I have told you, that is, it is typically used for receiving the initial data. Okay, it is typically used for receiving the initial data. That is the only function of input layer. Hidden layer are typically used for, they are not directly observable, they are typically used for providing non-linearities for the networks, meaning thereby for fast learning or fast training. Okay, then output layer encodes possible values, it produces the final results. So you get the output from the output layer. Input layers are responsible for fetching the input, hidden layers are used for providing the non-linearities, and so on. So these three types of layers are present in neural network. Now, when it comes to training, these are the three basic strategies, okay, which are typically used in case of neural network. The very first one is the supervised training. What does this mean? That is learning from labeled data set to predict known outputs. So when you know the input and you know the output well in advance, and if you are using this kind of a data set, which is also called as you can say numeralized data set or labeled data set, okay, then whatever strategy you use, it is called as the supervised training, because both input and output uh, are in your hand, okay, before going for training, right? Unsupervised training, when you know the input but you don't know the output. Okay, it is called as identifying patterns in unlabeled data. And there is one more, okay, which is the most popular one, and what they call it as the reinforcement training. It is learning through trial and error. It is very similar to when a small kid learn how to walk, right? So that is trial and error, right? He or she will stand up, okay, take one small step, may fall down, then again take help of some support, and then, so this is trial and error. And all the LLMs, maybe it is ChatGPT or any other popular LLM, they all uses some or the other variant of this reinforcement training. That is learning through trial and error. Okay, and what is the objective? Is objective is to achieve some specific goals. Okay, whatever is the objective of that particular network. Now, if you recall the evolution slide, probably the third or the fourth slide, okay, we have started with probably the traditional AI. Then the second box was with regard to machine learning. Okay. And the third one is the deep learning, or DL in short. Okay. So what is DL? So DL basically it has evolved from last 20 years. That is 2006. This term was very first time tossed. Okay. And what is it? It is basically a special class of machine learning techniques. Okay, developed largely since 2006, where many stages of non-linear information processing, many stages meaning thereby multiple layers, millions of layers. Okay, and that's why it is called as the feature learning as well. So what is deep learning? It is a class of machine learning techniques where many layers of information processes, the processing stages in hierarchical architectures are exploited to unsupervised feature learning. So that is on the baseline, it uses unsupervised feature learning. Okay, unsupervised, you are not using labeled data set, you are using unlabeled data set. And what is the objective? Objective is to go for analysis or classification, prediction, regression, whatever it is, right? So why it is deep? Because there are millions of layers, millions of neurons in each layer. The complexity is very high. That's why deep learning. Okay, actually it is machine learning. Basically it is machine learning, but it uses the term deep learning. But there are certain important aspects of this DL architecture as well. There are different levels, that is higher level, lower level, and so on, right? And it extract patterns from data using neural network. Okay, many times it learns on its own. That is self-learning strategy. Again, that is being exploited in case of this deep learning architecture. Now, in terms of input-output modalities, okay, if you recall, in case of you can say the machine learning, we used to give structured data or numeralized data. Now in this case, in case of deep learning architecture or deep learning structures, you can give structured or unstructured data. Now what do I mean by unstructured data? It is nothing but the image. Okay, in case of machine learning, you have to have numeralized data or structured data only, that is numbers, no image, right? But here you can give unstructured data or image as the input. What about the output modalities? Once again, structured data. And the best example is your unlocking of your mobile phone through face recognition. So whenever you purchase a new mobile, what do? You train it with your, you can say the face, okay, exposing your face from different angles. So what it does in the learning phase, it captures certain specific features from your face and store those things in some DL algorithm. Okay, and then whenever once you have trained it, okay, next time onwards, whenever you try to unlock your phone with your face ID, what it does, it tries to capture those features and compare it with the, you can say, the value which are stored in the, you can say, the DL algorithm. And when it matches, it simply opens up the mobile phone, or otherwise it will prompt the user with some appropriate error message that you are not an authorized user of this particular phone. So I hope you are understanding that is deep learning. Now, deep learning is the application areas are very wide. Say, for example, uh, autonomous vehicles. Okay, what is it? Right. So there are sensors, okay, which will capture the data. Okay, it will capture the real time data, and that data is being processed by those DL algorithms, and then they take decision, okay, whether to apply brake or whether to accelerate it, right, or whether to take a turn left or right, and so on and so forth, right. So there are numerous applications, but in terms of input output modalities, it is structured or unstructured, and the output is structured only, right. DL still has got only structured data. That is, it will give you either something is true or false. Okay, it will recognize you as a legitimate user, or it will say you are not a authorized user for in case of that mobile phone application and so on. Now, DL architecture, you have three different architectures: generative, discriminative, and hybrid. Okay, we'll not go into the details because it will consume a lot of time, but on a very cursory look, we'll just try to look at, because there are hundreds of generative deep architecture tool available, okay, which are being used by almost all the professionals. Okay, so we'll be exploring in the second session some generative AI tool once again. So generative, discriminative, and hybrid, which is a combination of generative and discriminative, right. So these things are there when it comes to, you can say, the deep learning kind of a thing. So deep learning, one of the most powerful aspect is what they call it as the generative AI, right? Now, what is Gen AI? Okay, generative AI is basically a subset of AI which utilizes machine learning models, and look at the potential. Okay, what this Gen AI tool can do for you, right? They are capable of creating new original content. Okay, I'm underlying the word new. So you can create a altogether new research article using these tools. Okay, such as images, text, or music. Okay, so you must have heard about some controversy with regard to the grok, wherein the photographs of you can say very high profile personalities were manhandled by these tools, and they were manipulated, and then those pictures become viral. Okay, then the company has to take action. Okay, and so on and so forth. But the potential of this Gen AI tool is to create altogether new images or text. As I said, that is, you can write complete research article. Okay, but whether one should use it for that purpose, the answer is a big no, right. Or you may compose music. Okay, and how do they do that? They do it based on the patterns and structures learned from existing data. Let's say you have used MF Hussein's painting for the training purpose, and then you ask it to create a similar painting on those lines. These tools are capable of doing so, and that too quite easily. And that is the real threat for all of us, right. तो सही में जो खतरा है वो यहीं पर है हमारे लिए, ठीक है ना. तो they are challenging our potentials, right. And those days are not far away when you will have you can say the Bollywood characters, okay, created by these tools, okay, or the entire movies which has been created by these tools. That those things are is happening, okay, with jet speed. Okay, but this is how it is, right. So this, even though it is a small subset of AI, okay, but it has got, now in terms of modalities, let us see. Okay, as we have seen in case of generative AI, okay, this is probably the last block, right. In case of generative AI, the input is unstructured. That is, you can give text or image input, unstructured. Earlier, up to deep learning, we used to have structured data only. That is only text. Okay, but here you can give structured, sorry, completely unstructured, like say text, image, etc. What about the output modalities? Unstructured. Or so it is a mapping from unstructured to complete unstructured. Now, what are the possibilities? Okay, you can write a prompt in English, okay, using some text, and you may generate an image. Okay, So text to image is possible, vice versa is again possible, from image to text is again possible, text to music is possible. Okay, that is, you can write a prompt in English to create a music on the lines of Anu Malik for a specific song. Okay, so it will create that, right? Then text to text, which is the most common one, right? This is now becoming fundamental aspect of all the Gen AI tool, like say Chat GPT. You write a text and it will generate a text for you. Okay, that is becoming very common. Okay, we call it as new normal, right, after COVID, right? So that is a normal activity, right? So Gen AI, now power of Gen AI: input text plus image, now multimodal; output text plus image, multimodal. Okay, now there is no limit, right? You can do any damn thing using these tools. Okay, that is the real power of this Gen AI tool. Now somewhere I think I have told you that we will discuss some problem associated with this technology. So just like any other technology, this technology again, it suffers from what they call it as a black box problem in AI. Okay, again, we'll not go into the details, because as I've told you, that is the first part. We'll build some theoretical foundation. Second part, we'll have some hands-on on some of these tools. So what is a black box problem? Black box problem is whenever you are dealing with any LLM tool, what do? You write some prompt in English, okay, fed it to the LLM tool, and then the tool will process it and it will give you some or the other answer. But how this particular tool has arrived at that particular answer is not known to anybody. Okay, so I underline the word anybody. Anybody meaning thereby, even if you approach the company who has been involved in the development of that tool, they will say a big no. Okay, even if you approach the actual development team, those who were involved in the development process of that particular tool, again they will come up with a plain answer. Sorry, sir, will not be in a position to justify that how this tool has arrived at that particular answer, because the complexity is so high that you don't know what is happening within that box, and that is why it is referred to as a black box problem in AI, right? So if you are using these tools for medical treatment, okay, you can think of what kind of vulnerability it will perform, right? So it may diagnose a completely wrong disease, and if you, let's say, if you start your line of treatment on those lines, okay, the patient will suffer a lot, right? Or let's say for hiring purpose or for any other things. So what is this black box? You give some input to the AI system, it is being processed by this box or any LLM tool. So this box can be replaced by any other tool. Okay, this black box, any LLM tool, Chat GPT or anything, whatever you feel like, and you get some or the other output. So what is happening within this box is not known to anybody, just because of the complexity of the problem you are dealing with. Okay, and it is not transparent, it is not known to anybody in the world, right? And that is why it is referred to as a black box problem in AI. Okay, so there are issues with regard to this black box problem, what they call it as the consequences of black box problem. The very first one is the lack of accountability. Now if something goes wrong, let's say it has diagnosed a wrong disease, okay, and the doctor has started treating the patient on those lines. Now to whom you will held responsible, whether you will sue the doctor or you will sue the you can say the person involved in the development team or the company itself who has developed that particular tool, and so on. So again, there are a lot of legal aspects coming up, right? So lack of accountability is there, then unpredictability is there. Okay, again, this is a little bit very important to note, that is, their behavior is unpredictable. So you never know what it will give you, what kind of output you will get. So okay, so it produces many times unwanted results, unpredictable results. Okay, that is another aspect. Okay, as I said, high stake in medical use or say military use. Why I'm saying military use, let's say you are using it for firing the missile on the enemy's target, but let's say if it is hitting your own land, okay, now to whom you will held responsible? Okay, so on these critical application, okay, there is high risk involved. Okay, so whether we can fully trust these tools, the answer is a big no. Okay, because human intervention is always needed. Okay, then who will regulate the decisions? Okay, so regulation is another important aspect. Okay, right now, for example, as on date, we do not have any guideline with regard to the use of this AI tool for research. Okay, so as long as there are no guidelines, you can use it. Okay, because there is no restriction imposed by any regulating agency like say AICT or UGC. But whether ethically it is correct, say for example, if I am generating an article using this AI tool, so definitely I am making certain compromises on ethical front, which is definitely wrong, right? So we have to have some regulating aspect of this AI. Okay, so let's try to talk about more on this Gen AI. As I have said, that is, even though it is a subset, it can create new original content, images, text, or music. But apart from that, these Gen AI tools are capable of challenging your creativity and innovation, and that is one of the biggest threat, right? Why I'm saying biggest threat? Because these Gen AI can create entirely new content that doesn't exist before. So creativity, innovation, earlier we used to have these two things attributed with human intelligence. Now that is being challenged by this Gen AI tool, and that is the real problem by posed by this particular technology or AI in general. What are the application areas of this AI, Gen AI? Content creation, drug discovery, game design, simulation, text to image creation, and so on. Right. Now, having said this, let's move forward to probably the second session. Some theory we have to have with regard to the second session. So that is, we will just try to uh, digest. Just allow me to take a break for a few seconds only. Right. Let me take. Well, sorry for the interruption, but that was very much needed. Okay, so let's move to the second session part. Okay, wherein, as I have promised you, that we will talk about large language model or LLM in short. What are all these LLMs? Okay, these LLMs are nothing but the neural networks. Okay, which is trained to predict the next term in an input sequence. Now, I think we have talked a lot of things with regard to the neural networks. Now, one should not ask that what these neural networks are all about, right? So it is a special case of neural network, you may say, okay, and it has been trained to predict the next term in an input sequence. Let us try to understand this with the help of a pretty simple example. Let's say if I give input like say all that glitters to any LLM model, like say Chat GPT and so on, it will come up with something like say is not gold. Now, don't you think that this really requires some sort of intelligence? The answer is yes, right? And that is the real power of this large language model. Okay, so large language models has got that potential to predict the next term in an input sequence, okay, on a very broader perspective, right? And why they are called as large language model? Again, due to the complexity and so on, right? There is no other reason. Now, what are the key characteristics of these LLMs? Okay, we need to understand. Now, here onwards, we will focus ourselves to all those LLMs. Okay, all those aspects of LLMs which are essential for using them. Okay, now, in terms of characteristics, there are two peculiar characteristics one has to be very clear about with regard to LLMs. The very first one is what they call it as the text understanding. So these LLMs understand natural language through advanced algorithms. Okay, that processes words, sentence, and the context. Now, if you look at from human intelligence perspective, what do we do whenever I ask you something or you ask something to me? What I'll do, I'll just try to understand the words, whatever you are saying. Okay, then I look at the entire sentence, okay, which is composed of words, and not only that, I'll just try to smell the context. okay, the context within which that question has been asked, and accordingly I will craft the answers for you. So on the similar line, these LLMs are capable of doing so, right? Text understanding, they understand the text, okay, text meaning thereby the words, sentences, and they go one step beyond, that is what they call it as the context within which that question has been asked. Second important aspect is, once they have understood the word, sentence, and the context, they are capable of generating text. That is the answer. What I am trying to say is the answer. So these LLMs generates coherent, contextually relevant text based on the input queries. Okay, making them powerful tool for a wide range of application. I'm saying wide range of application. You name the area, you will find some or the other LLM is there for solving or sorting out that particular problem. And that is the real power of these large language model. Okay, chat gpt is one of them, right? Now how do these LLM works? Okay, we need to understand their functioning as well. So there are 5 steps, as a matter of fact. Now here I hope you will be able to digest, and you may connect the dot whatever we have discussed till now, right? So the very first step is, the input text is broken down into smaller units. So as I said, that is in a single sentence, English like statement. Now, how do you interact with these LLMs? You interact with them by prompt. Okay, that is writing statements in English. Okay, now you don't require that skill sets what we used to have earlier. That is, for using computers, you have to have you can say mastery in some or the other high level language on, and then the logical reasoning and whatnot. Now all those skill sets are no more needed. Okay, which is the most popular language for computer scientists nowadays? It is the English. Let's say if you are good in English, okay, you can handle any tool, right? So the input text is broken down into smaller units or tokens, okay, then making it easier for the model to process, right? Okay, uh, are you with me first of all? Now, because it's actually 4 o'clock, right? It's 4 o'clock. Do you want a break? Be frank enough. If you want a break for 5 minutes, okay, we'll take a break for 4 to 5 minutes, and then again we'll continue the discussion. Or we may continue. I don't have any problem. As far as I am concerned, I can speak for 3 hours. That's not a big deal for me. Uh, yes, but we'll take a break for 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. Is this okay? Everybody is comfortable with this? But please don't go away. Please don't go away. Just allow me to take my. Yes. Okay. So 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. By that time, you may take your tea if required, right? I hope you are enjoying the session, probably. Tell you. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, welcome back. Okay. So where were we? We were talking about the how do these LLM basically works. So the very first step is the tokenization, wherein what do? We simply divide the sentences into smaller words or units, what they call it as tokens. Okay, that is, you may say, from the LLM perspective, we call it as a token. You may call it as words in terms of English. Okay, why do we do so? Because the licensing mechanism for these tools is in terms of tokens, है ना? जैसे आप जब भी अगर इसका लाइसेंस लोगे, हम उन चीज़ों पे बात करेंगे डेफिनेटली कि भाई हाउ टू यूज इट uh, as a free or then maybe a licensed version. Okay, so the licensing, as I've told you, it is in terms of tokens, in terms of days or the duration and so on. Okay, let's say if you are consuming 10,000 token in a day, then it may be possible. So it is both. Okay, so what do they do? The very first thing is they tokenize it. Tokenize it meaning thereby each word will be considered as a one token. Okay, it is not that simple. Many times it is more than that. Then say for example, if you are using ing or ers, then it may consume two tokens in that case, because the context is changing. Okay, if you are saying ing, the meaning is altogether different. If you say ers, the these are the, say for example, making or make, right? So that is tokenization. For simplicity, you can assume that each word you may consider as token. So if in a statement or in a sentence you have got 10 odd words, it will be 10 tokens, right? Embedding, then the tokens are converted into numerical vectors. Now you can connect the dot, which we have already seen. So there are reasons to it. Why we have talked about that computing with words, that is what we are doing in that case. We are doing appreciation, meaning thereby actually we are translating those words into numbers, because computers can process only numbers. Okay, so on the similar line, you need to convert these words into numerical vectors, and those numerical vectors represent their meanings. Okay, third is the self attention. So the model assesses which part of the text are most important for understanding the query. Let's say you are appearing in an examination hall, okay, and you are facing a question like that is explain this and question mark and then justify. The question carries 6 marks, so you very well know that 4 marks are devoted for the explanation and 2 marks are there for the justification. So if you miss the justification, okay, you will not be able to get that 6 out of 6. Okay, and that is what do you do exactly. On the similar line, these tools are capable of identifying the important words. Okay, which words are most important for understanding the query, that is self attention. Then prediction, they go one step beyond, that is the model predicts the next word or token based on the context provided by the input text. As I have given you an example, that is all that glitters. Okay, and what it will come up with, it will come up with is not gold, right? Response generation, then these model generates a response by predicting and stringing together relevant words in a coherent manner. Okay, so response generation is that perspective. Okay, so having said this, these are the 5 steps in which the prompts are being processed by all these LLMs. Okay, now what is left? Okay, what is left? The only thing which is left in our hand is how to write a precise prompt. Okay, so one complete area of engineering has emerged in the recent past, what they call it as the prompt engineering. So, what is prompt engineering? It refers to the practice of crafting precise inputs to guide AI systems in generating accurate and relevant responses. है ना? तो आप जो इंग्लिश में जो स्टेटमेंट लिखते हैं वो कितने प्रिसाइज हो, आई एम सेइंग प्रिसाइज, क्योंकि आपका जो लाइसेंसिंग मैकेनिज्म है इट इज इन टर्म्स ऑफ टोकन्स. तो आप बहुत लंबा चौड़ा लिखोगे और आंसर सेम आ रहा है, तो आप उसको अगर प्रिसाइज लिखोगे तो डेफिनेटली द सेकंड वन इज मच बेटर. So, how to write that prompt in a precise manner without making any compromises on the accuracy and the relevance of the answers? Okay, that is what is called as the prompt engineering. So, effective prompt engineering is crucial in ensuring that AI outputs are aligned with users' expectation. ठीक है ना? So we must be master in writing these prompts. Okay, so that is prompt engineering is all about. Now before directly jumping into the prompt engineering, okay, we need to understand what are the various prompt engineering techniques. So the very first one is what they call it as the zero shot prompting, and this is the way in which most of us, whenever you interact very first time with chat gpt or any other tool, okay, you follow the same strategy wherein you don't give any example and you fire a direct query. Whatever is there in your mind, you write it, that is what is this or what is that and so on, right, without giving any example. Okay, so in that case definitely you get some uh, more generic responses from the tools. Okay, and that's why many times you complain, okay, sir, we are not getting the appropriate answers, right, because you are not giving any example. Okay, so let's say if I am not giving you the complete question, how you will come up with the complete answer, right? It is very similar to that. Let's say if you give one example, okay, so it will help the AI tool to understand what exactly you want. Say for example, in case of one shot prompting, if I am providing one example, let us assume that I have designed a new motorcycle and which I want to launch in the market, and for launching that motorcycle in the market I want to design a tagline for that product. Okay, and let us assume that my competitor is Hero Honda. Okay, so what I can do, I can give this as an example. Whatever is the tagline for this Hero Honda, that is fill it, forget it. Let us assume, right? It was the tagline earlier. I don't know what is it exactly right now, but if I give this as the input, okay, that is fill it and forget it, okay, as the example, and now if I ask the Gen AI tool to design a tagline for my motorcycle, okay, it will give me exactly the answer what are my expectation from the tool. That is what it will do. It will just try to understand, that is the user want very precise, that is not more than 4 words, and each word should depict some or the other USP of that particular product, है ना, जैसे in terms of mileage or in terms of fuel efficiency or in terms of economy and whatnot. So that is called as one shot prompting. So this way, if you give one example, it is called as one shot prompting. Okay, AI is given a task with one example. Okay, few shot prompting, let's say if you give more than one, that is two or three, etc., it is called as few shot prompting, wherein you are giving more than one example, that is either two or three, and then you are asking the Gen AI tool to generate the response for you. Okay, so it will help a lot. Okay, it will understand all those possibilities, and it will design something like which is very innovative in terms of you can say the tagline and so on. Apart from this, there are few more techniques, what they call it as the role prompting. So you may assign a role to this Gen AI tool, role or persona. Okay, you may say that assume you are a vice chancellor of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University or Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University. Okay, and then you ask your query. Okay, so in this case definitely you will get more tailored responses, because you are assigning a role, or you may assign a role of a DSP, or maybe a governor of a state, or a chief minister of a particular state, and so on, and then you put your answer question. Okay, so it will give you more. So this is called as a role or persona, or you may assign a role of a research assistant to a particular Gen AI tool, so that it will presume itself that as if it is behaving as a research assistant, and it will carry out the activity for you, right? So that is called as the role prompting, role or persona prompting. Then chain of thought prompting is there, wherein you may break down a big task, into n number of smaller logical steps and feed it one by one. That is called as COT. Then meta prompting, wherein you are asking the Gen AI tool to generate its own prompts for a specific task. Okay, that is again possible, but it requires more expert level of reasoning and sophisticated responses. Okay, that is meta prompting. Then tree of thought prompting, wherein AI explores multiple possible reasoning paths simultaneously. Okay. Say, for example, I want to visit from my place, Amravati, to Aurangabad, right? Or Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, right? What it will do, it will explore numerous possible paths, and it will give me the most optimal path in terms of toll, in terms of traffic condition, in terms of road condition, and so on. right? So it will explore multiple paths and it will give the most optimal path in terms of certain parameters, whatever you have asked for. Then prompt chaining, okay, that is, it involves linking multiple prompts together in a sequence. Okay, that is one after another, what they call it as the cascading. The output of one prompt is given as input to the next one, and so on. This is called as prompt chaining. All right. Now, apart from this, there are few parameters which we must be concerned about. What they call it as the temperature. The very first one is the temperature, and this is our most of the time, since we don't know about all these parameters. Okay, we most of the time we make a complaint that we are not getting the appropriate responses from these tools. Okay, so the very first parameter is what they call it as the temperature. The value of this temperature is between 0 to 2. So if you keep it very small, you get more generic responses. Okay, if you want more creative outputs, okay, if you want to increase the creativity of the answers, you need to increase the value of this temperature from zero point 0.0 to maybe 1.5 or 1.7. Okay, so higher the value, higher the creativity, something like that, right? So temperature is one of them. Then max token, which defines the length of the response. If you want to restrict the length of the answers to a specified word, you may do so by declaring this max token. So longer token limits result in more detailed answer. If you make it 1000 words, definitely you will get more answers. If you keep it 200 words, you will get an abstract kind of a thing, right? Then top p, okay, how many potential words. So this setting determines how many potential words the AI consider while generating responses. A lower value focuses the model on the most likely outcomes. Okay. Then frequency penalty and presence penalty. Okay. Many times we complain that we are getting the redundant or repeated answers. Same thing again and again is being repeated. If you want to avoid that, you can set these two parameters: frequency penalty and present penalty. Okay. So which will avoid the redundancy, right? Then how to use it for research. Okay. Now I'll wind up within 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll directly switch to the you can say the use of these tools, right? Demonstration of these tools, right? So whether one should use it for research, okay, the answer is a big no. Okay, one should not use it for generation of idea, to be very specific. But you may use it for some other activities, okay, wherein there is no ethical compromises you are making, right? If you are not making ethical compromises, then there is no problem as such. But different you can say the publishing houses, they have got their own way of dealing with this AI generated stuff. Say for example, I am from engineering background, so we have a IEEE mandates. Okay, so wherein it allows me to use for all these GenAI tool only for editing and grammar enhancement, not for anything else. ठीक है ना? तो इसी तरह से एल्सवेयर का है, देन साइंस जर्नल स्प्रिंजर हैज गॉट देयर ओन गाइडलाइंस. ओके, सो you have to simply adhere to those guidelines, whatever has been specified by all those publishing houses. Okay, and you should not use it for anything other than whatever has already been specified in those guidelines, right? Now this is an indicative list. Okay, we'll have a look at all these tools. Okay, but maybe we will go a little bit beyond these tools, wherein we'll just try to see what is generative AI, how to create agents, and so on. But illicit consensus is there, then research rabbit is there, and so on. So this is an indicative list. Okay, we'll go a little bit more, but somewhere I think I have told you that is we are talking about a problem or a black box problem with this AI. And what is the solution? The solution to this black box problem is what they call it as the explainable AI, or a glass box kind of approach. So what we need to do is we need to convert that black box to a glass box. Why I'm saying glass box? Because if it is a glass box, you can definitely see through it, and you can very well come up that is how a particular model has arrived at a particular answer. And this is what they call it as the explainable AI or responsible AI. There are numerous terminologies which are used, or glass box approach, right? Now there are two models which are available. Okay, I'll not go into the details, but just for the sake of information, you may note it down. That is LIME, local interpretable model agnostic explanation. Then SHAP is there, and so on. Right. Now, having said this, uh, whether the solution is the glass box, as I have told you, right? There are two other issues, what they call it is the privacy and security. Okay, that is whatever prompt you type with any of the LLM, okay, it is vulnerable in terms of security and privacy. Okay, so that is the another hot area, which is the area of concern while using this Gen AI tool. So there are frameworks coming up, what they call it as the FAT framework. That is wherein we have got fairness, accountability, and transparency. FAT stands for fairness, A for accountability, and T for transparency. Right. So this is all as far as the theoretical foundation is concerned. Okay. Now, if you have any specific query, you may fire it right now, or otherwise, what we will do, I'll take up your questions at the end. And these are my contact details. Okay. So you may approach me for any kind of help in this regard. Okay. Whenever you feel like, right. Now, let us move to the demonstration. Right. But before directly jumping to the demonstration, if you have any specific query, I'll be happy to answer. Okay. Now, let us begin with uh, different tools, right? So for using all these tools, okay, what do you require? You require only one thing, that is your Gmail account. Okay, Gmail account is more than enough for creating your account with these tools. So what I'll do, I'll start with a very basic tool, what they call it as the Notebook LM. Okay. So we'll start with a very basic tool. Okay. And this fantastic tool is right now available free of cost. Okay. And it has been provided by Google itself. Okay. So for using this tool, what you need to do is simply log in through your Gmail account, go to this Google Apps, and somewhere at the bottom you will find this Notebook LM. Okay, so click on this Notebook LM. I hope my entire screen is visible to you. I hope my entire screen is visible to you. Hello, whether we are connected. Okay, somebody has said yes, sir, it is visible. So I presume that it is visible. Okay, so let's move ahead with this Notebook LM. Okay, now as I said that this Notebook LM can be used for this. It uses AI at the back end. Okay, whatever technology we have talked about, I'll show you. This is a basic tool which you may adopt for teaching, learning, and research. This can be used for any damn purpose. I tell you, teaching, learning, assessment, and result. That is the only reason I am showing it as the very first tool, and it is available free of cost. As on date, there is no subscription fee, or there is no plan available. Okay, it is available free of cost. And for using this, you have to have your Gmail account, log in through your Gmail account, or the other way around, go to notebooklm.google.com, sign in with your Gmail account. You will find something like this. Now, you want to create a new notebook. Now, there are two ways in which you can create a new notebook. You can click on this create new button, or the other way around, you can go to this create new notebook. Both way it will work. Okay. Once you click on that, you will find something like this on the screen. Okay. So wherein there are various possibilities. Let's say you have downloaded few research paper, you want to learn about those papers, okay, in a single go. You may upload those file by using this upload file button. Okay, simply click on this upload. Okay, pick the files in the desired location, upload those files into the source. That is one way of doing it. The other way of learning is through the websites. Okay, that is YouTube website or any other website. Okay, you can click on this. Third one is, let's say if it is there on your Google Drive. Okay, so you may pick this drive option for accessing those files. Okay, so simply click on this drive and then fetch the desired files. Okay, and then specify those things as a source. Okay, something which you have copied and you want to paste it. Okay, you may use this copied text button, Or let us assume that you do not want to use any of these option. Okay, you can search the web. Okay, you can search the web for a specific task. So let's say AI in, now since you are all muted, okay, I will pick up some topic: AI in healthcare, Indian context. Okay, this is the prompt I am writing. Okay, then simply hit. Okay, actually this is not a prompt, as a matter of fact this is the topic which I intend to learn. Okay, I want to create a notebook based on this topic. So then hit this blue arrow. Okay, so what it will do, it will, as you can see here, there are three panels. One is the source, second is the chat, and the third one is the studio. Okay, so what it is doing, it is accessing all those papers, okay, from the web. Okay, so it has identified how many papers, 10 odd papers. Okay, in a single go it will pick 10 at a time, not more than 10. Okay, but you may go up to 50 odd papers in the sources. Okay, but in that case definitely you have to execute this 5 times. Okay, or add up papers manually, as I've said, the alternative methods through which you can fetch all those papers. So right now we have fetched 10 odd papers. For the sake of example, we'll consider only 10 sources in this case. Simply click. Now what you need to do is you need to import these papers. So click on this import button. So what is happening is it is accessing those papers, those 10 papers, and it is creating a notebook based on that. Okay, so this is the most crucial aspect of creating a notebook LM. That is, whatever all other activities you will carry out, it will all depend on the sources, what kind of sources you have picked up. Okay, better the sources, you get the better output in terms of you can say the other functionalities of this notebook LM. Okay. And the second important thing one has to note is it will not access papers which are in a controlled access. Like say if some IEEE Explore papers are there wherein you require login ID and password, then it will not fetch those papers. It will give you some error. So it will access papers, only those papers which are available in public domain, right? Which are freely available or which are available on a open access platform. Okay, but if something is there which requires some login ID and password, it will not fetch that particular paper. Then the second panel is what they call it as the chat functionality. Now what is there in a chat? In chat you can write prompts here, or it has generated some few prompts on its own. Okay, say for example, what is the Ayushman Bharat digital mission role in healthcare? Okay, now I have picked up this one. Now it is parsing the result, it is analyzing the papers, all 10 papers, and it is crafting the answers for me. Okay, or let's say if I am not satisfied with all these things, okay, whatever is there, I may type my own prompt here. Okay, and hit this arrow key. Okay, so that you will get so right. So this is the chat functionality, basic chat functionality. Now it has crafted the answers. Okay, operational efficiency and so on. On the right hand side you have got a studio functionality. Now this is very important from teaching learning perspective. Okay, say for example, you want to create audio, okay, an explainer audio, or generation of AI podcast by kind of an audio, okay, and that too in not only in English but in these many Indian languages. Say for example, we are from Maharashtra, so Marathi is there, then Hindi is there, Bengali is there, okay, Gujarati and so on, right? So these many languages, right? Say so you can pick any one of them, but this is applicable to audio only. But let's say if you do not pick any of these, okay, by default it will be created in English only. So it will be a conversational audio between two person. One fellow will be asking the question, the other one will be responding to those questions. Now you may ask, sir, what is the use of this audio? This audio can be downloaded later on. You can listen to it and you can grasp that concept, right? So that is audio. Okay. Apart from that, you can also create a explainer video. Okay, explainer video, and that too it will be based on all these 10 sources. Okay, right now we have picked up only 10 sources, so it will restrict itself to only 10. But let's say if you have picked up 50 odd sources, it will be based on all those 50 odd sources, right? So video can be created. Okay, but video, there is no Indian language support, it will be in English only. Okay, apart from this, you can create a mind map which will be quite helpful while understanding or while learning this particular concept. Okay, then let's say for examination purpose, you can create a flashcard or you may create a quiz. Okay, let's say you are interested in creating an infographic sort of a banner for your presentation which you have scheduled tomorrow for the classroom. Okay, so you can create an infographic presentation, right? And let us assume that you are interested in creating a PowerPoint presentation based on 10 sources. So it will create this slide deck functionality, will create or it will generate an AI slide deck of approximately 15 slides based on the 10 sources. Okay, and that too very effectively. Okay, so all these things you can do. Let's see what has happened. Okay, now we have given this task, that is generate this mind map. Okay, so this is the mind map. Okay, okay, which will help you a lot in understanding that concept. Okay, now this can be downloaded as I have told you. Okay, or you can share it with your student community directly by clicking on the share button and so on. Right. So we'll close this. Okay, let's try to move further. I think somewhere we have given the task of generating a quiz. Let's see what is there in the quiz. So it has created quiz, that too based on the 10 sources, 10 questions, okay, multiple choice with hint and answers and so on. So you can go to the next question and so on. Okay, you can share it with your student community by simply clicking on this share tab and so on, right? So quiz is there, then probably the flashcard we have given. Okay, so these flashcards are again ready. Okay. How many flashcards? 65 flashcards based on 10 sources. Okay. So you can move to the next this way. Okay. You can share it with your student community or your colleagues. All right. Then probably, yeah. AI in Indian healthcare. Okay. This is the infographic, right? And that too based on the 10 sources. Okay, AI, it has given a fantastic title, the new heartbeat of Indian healthcare. Okay, and then these statistics, these data, it is coming up from all those sources along with a beautiful graphical presentation. Okay, so this you can very well use it for advertising your session and so on. Okay, so this is again very useful in terms of teaching learning. Okay, audio is still working on. Okay, now let us try something else. Slide deck, I don't know whether it is still working on slide deck. Let us try, let us look at the, let's say you want to create certain reports. Okay, so simply click on this generate reports based on your sources. Now again, this is quite helpful when it comes to teaching learning. So most of the time while teaching, okay, we used to give students some study guide or briefing doc, what we used to call it as the study notes, okay, blog post, and so on. Okay. Then strategic policy framework, clinical performance assessment, pros flow narrative, solution comparative comparison overview, and so on. है ना? तो ये जितना भी रहेगा, it will be based on those sources, and it will vary when you change the topic. The things will vary here, right? Let's say you are not satisfied with this, you want to create your own report. Okay, so you may go ahead with this, create your own. Okay, but create your own only in English. Okay, no other Indian language support. Let's say I want to create a research proposal for submission to UGC. Okay, so you may do so by simply clicking on this box and typing exactly what you intend to do. So let's say create a research proposal using UGC MRP guidelines, right? And say generate. So it will generate a research proposal for me, right? Slide deck it is still working on, generating report is working on, right? And so on. Okay. So this will take little bit more time. Probably the research proposal will be created very soon, but all other things, that audio will take little bit more time. Okay, and slide deck. I'll show you by the time. I will show you one slide deck which I have created for various training strategies, right? Using this tool, so that you will get an idea that is how fantastic it is in terms of, yeah. So there we are, right? So this is uh, a- as I said, 15 slides most of the time. Okay, and at the bottom somewhere you will find Notebook LM logo over there, that it has been created using Notebook. Okay, so look at the quality of the presentation, right? Every piece of the slide is being used very effectively, optimally, and with fantastic graphs and so on, right? And that too, it will be based on all those 10 sources whatever you have specified. So if you pick or submit quality sources, the output will be accordingly quality, right? Otherwise, okay, the sources are not good. Okay, all right. So with probably we are connected if I am not wrong. Okay, let's move further. Okay, this is the Notebook LM, which I think I've shown you just now. Yeah. So the research proposal is ready. Look at the research proposal. Okay. So research proposal, it has given a fantastic title, that is scaling AI driven diagnostic monitoring system within the Indian healthcare ecosystem UGC MRP framework. Okay, project title and executive overview, right? Then review of the literature 2022 से 25, right? Recent one, their comparison, and so on. Okay, problem formulation, then research gap, statement of objective. Okay, research objective, everything has been written, right? But my advice would be, don't copy. You can copy it, right? You can copy content with formatting by clicking on this button, but don't copy and paste it. What I'm trying to emphasize here is, if you do so, when somebody will put it in some plaque test, plaque check, it will be categorized as AI generated stuff. So my advice would be, don't do in that particular manner. Rather, use it as a guiding line, guiding principle for generating your own proposals, right? Don't simply copy and paste, right? But I hope you are getting the idea that how it is to be done. Okay, so now this is the video which we have created, for national health programs around the world, right? To be forced to stop. So this is how one can create it, right? Slide deck, it is still working on. Okay, all right. So this is all about Notebook LM. Let's move to some other tool. Let's move to some tool which one can use for research. Okay, but this you may use it for teaching, learning, assessment. Okay, creating a PowerPoint presentation, creating a research proposal, creating a explainer video, or creating a audio, that too in your own local native language. Okay, and wherein we have got Marathi as well as Hindi, right? So this is a very fantastic tool. As on date, it is completely free. Okay, so you need not have to bother about any subscription fee and so on. Right. Let's move to the some other tool. Yeah. Let me check whether the slide deck is there. Yes. So there we are. Now the slide deck is ready. Okay. Now look at the blueprint of digital anatomy. Okay. Look at the way in which the this is the ecosystem stack, vertically integrated health engine. Now what do you feel whether it is possible to create this kind of stuff? Okay, so it saves your time and energy which you may utilize it for some other creative activity. Okay, and that too it is based on 10 odd sources, right? So this is the Viksit Bharat, a blueprint for the global south. Okay, look at the title and everything, right? So it uses AI at the back end. Okay, it uses AI at the back end. Okay, you may share this with your student community or you can play it. Okay, you can say start slideshow, right? And so on, right? So I hope that this tool will be of immense use for you while carrying out teaching, research, and assessment, right? Now let us move to something else. Okay, but actually my objective was why I'm taking a pause. Let's say if there are some question with regard to a specific tool, if you would have fired there itself, it would have been much better. Anyway, I will take up your question at the end, no worries. Okay, let's move to some other tool. Okay, now let's see what is there on the you can say the on the research front. Okay, say the very first tool. Let's say you want to analyze or synthesize research paper. So there is a tool called illicit.com. Okay, simply click on this illicit.com. Okay, you will find something like this on the screen. Okay, type the area you intend to search for, AI in healthcare. Indian context. Actually, with some limited version, it is free of cost. Okay, what has happened in this case is my free attempts have expired. I'll try my another account. Yes. There we are. So I've given a topic like say AI in healthcare Indian context. So it has come up with how many papers? Approximately 10 papers in a single go, along with the summary. So papers are appearing here. Okay, their title, DOI, everything is there. The column number one. Then we have got a summary, executive summary for all those paper. Now let's say I want to analyze or synthesize these papers in terms of some other parameters. Let's say my intention is to identify the research gaps, right? My intention is to identify the research gap of all the 10 papers. So once again, you can go on adding from 10 to 20 to 30, 40, 50 odd papers, but let us for the demonstration purpose, let us restrict ourselves to 10 only. Okay, now I am interested in adding one more column. Okay, so simply click on this right hand side, edit column. Okay, click on this add new. Okay, and here you are supposed to give the title of your column, that is in this case research, right? Let's say research gaps. Okay. Now, while creating this column, if you want to give some specific instruction, you can type those instruction in English-like statement. Okay. In our case, let us assume that we do not intend to give any instruction. Okay. So let us keep it blank. Simply say add a column. Okay. So what will happen? It will create one additional column called research gaps. Okay. Now that column is being created and it is being populated from the stuff from all those papers. Okay, one after another. Okay, one after another. All right. So this way, in the free version, I may create as many as four column. Free version. Okay, if you want to have more than four attributes or four column, you need to upgrade to a paid plan. But let's say if you do not want to upgrade for a paid plan, okay, you have got some shortcuts, okay, because we are all Indians, right? So what we can do, we may delete these columns. Let's say once you are done with this particular column, you may delete it and then you go on adding the column. Okay, let's say research methodology. Let's say research methodology. Okay, again add a column. Okay, now research methodology is being created and it is being populated from all those papers one after another. All right. Okay, so this is illicit. Okay, I hope you'll find it quite useful while doing research, right? So this is illicit. Okay, this is the how one can use illicit. Then it is suggesting me some AI application and impact, challenges and barriers, enabling factors and solutions. Okay, so I may do so by now. It is giving some specific instruction as you can see here. Okay, extract, enabling factors, policy, and so on. So you may give all these things. Okay, but it all depends what kind of stuff your intention is to create, right? Okay, so this illicit is a fantastic tool for analyzing or synthesizing research papers, right? Analyzing or synthesizing research papers. Then let's say for literature survey, we have a very fantastic tool, what they call it as the connected papers. Okay. So simply go to this connectedpapers.com, okay, and type AI in healthcare Indian context. Okay. Now you can build graphs. Okay, these graphs are quite helpful to you while identifying. But again, in my case, what has happened? Okay, I have reached my monthly graph limit because I used to take sessions, right? So there is a limit as far as the free graphs are concerned. Okay, let me give a try with to my some different account. Okay, let's see whether it works over there. Okay, so continue with Google. Same thing I'm facing here. All right, because the five graphs per month are free. Okay, and this month actually I have exhausted that limit. But you may try it on your own. Okay, you will not face any difficulty. What you need to do is you have to type the context here and then simply look at the graphs. Okay, so graphs can be yeah, no, it will not allow me even to load the earlier graph as well, right? So I am really sorry, but you can explore this tool later on. Okay, for identifying the real stuff in your domain, right? So this will give you a pictorial, graphical representation of various papers, how they are dependent on each other. Okay, so you can find out real people who are working in your domain quite easily, and then you can uh, follow them, and then you may use it, you may share it, you may use all those graphs once again for your literature survey purpose, right? So this connected papers is a very fantastic tool which you may use for identifying the real stuff in your domain. On the similar line, we do have tools like say research rabbit. This again you may use it for identifying the real literature in your domain. But unfortunately, okay, same thing here. Let me show you. Let's say whether I'll be able to, free is right now active. Okay, let me check it out. Okay, or otherwise I will show you something which is there. Now the beauty of this research rabbit is even you can connect this with some tools like say Zotero or Biptex. So what is Zotero? Zotero is basically a referencing tool. It is a standard referencing tool, okay, which is typically used for identifying real literature in your domain, right? So if something you have got in the form of Zotero collection, you can fetch it directly by clicking on this. You need to simply connect to your Zotero account, and you can fetch all those stuffs directly here, right? So research rabbit is again very fantastic in terms of identifying real literature. Okay, again you may draw graphs. I'm really sorry, I'll not be in a position to demonstrate this because up to 31st of March it will not allow me because I have exhausted my free limit. Okay, or otherwise what you need to do is you need to go for a paid version. It is asking me to upgrade right now. Okay, if I make some payment, definitely I can use it today itself. But my free limits have been exhausted. Okay, so these two tools you may try. Then you can try one more tool, what they call it as answer this. Okay, what is answer this is, it is basically a combination of lot of tools under one umbrella. So there are very many things you can do using this. Okay, let's try something in this answer this. Sign in. Okay, if you are a first time user, you can sign in with your Gmail credentials. Okay, I'm using my Gmail account. Okay, all right. Now what is there in this? Okay, let's check it out. Okay, again, most of the free features are available. You can use it for finding papers, literature review, even data analysis, finding research gaps, paper chat, then extract data, and very many things. Okay, so even AI writer is there. Okay, you may use for you can say for rewriting your paper. Okay, many times we are not so good in English. Okay, so you may take help of this AI writer for paraphrasing purpose. Okay, then uh, then you have all other aspects like say Even what has happened in my case, once again, this is again exhausted, 5 out of 5. Okay, I'll not be able to demonstrate few of the functionality, but you can give a try on your own, right? So this answer, this you may try. Let me show you few more things, like say PaperPal. Okay, so PaperPal is there. This is typically used for, there are very many things you can do under this paper pal, right? So it is a combination of lot of tools, many things under one umbrella. Okay, and so you have a chat PDF which I was referring to, so you can chat with the PDF by simply clicking on this, upload the PDF file and go on chatting with it. Okay, then you can even embed this as a MS Word add-in or Google Doc add-in or a Chrome extension, that is again possible. You may perform some plagiarism check, but with some limitations. Okay, so you need to upload your file, but not more than 7,000 words. Okay, PDF or Word file you may upload. You can check free of cost plagiarism, but with some limited 7,000 word cap. Okay, so this is there. Then what else is there? For improving the grammar, okay, simply type, copy and paste your stuff. Okay, ask it to check, it will check the grammar for you. Okay, then it will write or rewrite, what we call it as the paraphrasing kind of thing, that is again possible. Okay, rewrite, as I said, then research, plagiarism and so on, right? So this paper pal is again a very fantastic tool. Okay, initially it is free for some limited functionality. Okay, but definitely if you want to use it to its fullest extent, you have to pay for it. Okay, so this is paper pal. Now let us move ahead with something which I think I have promised you with regard to creating agents. Okay. Now let's say I want to create agent for a specific task. How can I do so? Okay. So there is what they call it as, there is a tool called Zapier. Okay. So simply go to this Zapier agents. Task is visible to problem with this online is you don't know what is Zapier. Right? So this Zapier agents, like Zapier.com agents. If you are using for first time, you need to definitely sign. Okay, you are using your Gmail credential, or you need to create an account. Once you have done with that, okay, you'll find something like this. Now let's say I want to create an agent for me. Okay, and what is the objective of that agent? That objective of that agent will just try to look at. There, what are the various possibilities? Okay, so simply click on this new agent. All right. Now you have clicked on that new agent. Moment you click on that new agent, okay, on the left hand side, what is happening is it is showing me some ready-made template for creating certain agents. Okay, so if you are new, okay, it would be better that if you use any one of these template. Let's say my objective is to create automatic answers to my Gmail account. Okay, let's say I'm running a MMTC, right? So in MMTC, what happens? Let's say there are most of the time there are a lot of emails from the participants asking for various things. Okay, say for example the schedule of a particular program, or whether it is online, offline, and whatnot, right? So what I can do, I may create a sales email creator or a email automatic email agent, and so on, right? So email event creator and so on. These are all built-in template. So let us try sales email creator. Okay. So what I'm doing, sales email creator, moment I've clicked on that, some template has appeared here. Okay. Now in this template, everything is defined, and that too it is in English. Now you don't know any you don't require to learn any computer language for using all these tools. If you look at these templates, you will find that you need to define the objective, what exactly you intend to do. That is, let's say, search the provided website for information about the company, use the name and email. This is for sales purpose. Right now I'm creating, right? So let's say I'm satisfied with this, I can edit all these functionalities by simply clicking on that, right? But let's say I want to use this as it is, so use this template. Okay. Definitely, I need to give access to my Gmail account. Okay, let's say create. Now that agent is being created. Okay, so agent has been created. Now you can see the preview of agent, agent preview. You may test the agent by clicking on this test button. Okay, right now I'm invoking it. Okay. So it is scanning all my Gmail account, whatever account I have given access to, and it is coming up with its observation, and it is drafting and crafting replies to all those mails and so on. Right. So this way you can create agents for doing some routine task. Okay, without any human intervention. Okay. So this way you may create a research assistant as well. Okay, wherein you are supposed to define what exactly you want to have from that agent, what kind of functionality you want to have from that agent, right? So this is a very fantastic tool called Zapier, right, which you may use it for creating agents, right? Creating agent, right? So this is agentic AI kind of functionality. Now let us move further. The unfortunate part is, again, you are not able to unmute. Okay, but anyway, let's move further. Okay, let's go to a few more aspects of this AI, that is on the tool front. Okay. Now let us assume that you want to identify which particular tool is best for your functionality, whatever you are looking for. So there is a platform called OpenRouter.ai. Okay, simply click on this OpenRouter AI. Okay, if you are a first time user, definitely you need to sign up with your Gmail credentials. Once you have done with that, okay, simply click on these models. Okay, yesterday it was 658. So every day one or two model is being added. Okay, so right now, as you can see here, there are how many models? 660 models under this umbrella. Okay, now if you look at this is what I was referring to, the input modalities and output modalities. Let's say you are clear about your input modalities. Let's say from text to image, you want to see text to image. Output is image. Okay, 17 models are there. Nano Banana 2. Okay, Sourceful Review River Flow V2 Pro and so on. Okay, this is what I was referring to. That is the context length. Okay, so context length can be defined. There are certain supported parameters. Okay, if you just recall, we have talked about this temperature, top P, okay, presence penalty, frequency penalty, repetition penalty, max token, and there are many. Okay, there are many. Okay, but all those things can be handled. Then zero data retention. Okay, now who are the providers? These tools have, let's say, I've jot down these 17 tools. Okay, now I'm interested in who are the providers for these tools. Okay, so it is showing me that it is AI21 is the provider, then Aeon Labs, okay, Akash ML, Alibaba Cloud, and so on, Amazon and Azure and whatnot. Right. Now I can even look at their rankings. That is how these tools are ranked for a specific task. Okay, it will give you the real time data up to 16 March, last 15 days. Okay, so how these tools are basically ranked. Say, for example, Mimo V2 Pro. Okay, so as you can see, for academia, it has been ranked as number 6, finance 23, health 46, legal 7, SEO 39, and there are very many things, right? So then playground, who are the providers, what are the applications, and so on. Now, let's say if you want to interact with two, three models, or you want to chat and compare their response, that is again possible. Okay, simply click on this chat, and let's say this is the first model. I want to add one more model, and let's say I'm interested in looking at their outputs, okay, based on my some prompt. Okay, so you may do so, and then you can take a very well informed decision that which tool is best suited for your application, right? So this is a fantastic tool, platform, one should say, okay, wherein you can interact with numerous models under one umbrella. Okay, but again, up to some extent, it is free, but otherwise, you need to buy some credits. Okay, while going for interaction, right now I am not having any credits. Okay, so maybe you need to pay 5 or 10 odd dollars for getting certain credits. Okay, up to some extent, it is completely free. Okay, up to some extent, it is completely free. So this is open router. Okay, this is open router. Now let's move further. I think somewhere I have told you that I'll show you certain tools wherein how to protect your privacy and secrecy. Last slide, probably, right? The biggest problem with all these tools, whatever I have shown you just now, okay, in this case, you have to be online, the very first thing. Second is, whatever prompt you type and whatever responses you are getting, okay, it is vulnerable in terms of privacy and security. So if you wish to safeguard yourself, okay, and let's say you want to carry out some confidential work, okay, which you do not want to share with anybody, and if you are using these kind of a tool for generation of your uh, confidential work, okay, you will face a lot of problems. So how to protect yourself and still use these tools? So there are frameworks available, like say LM Studio. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to download this LM Studio, free download. Simply Google it, go to this, download LM Studio free. Okay, let's say if you are using Windows, okay, you may download it by simply clicking on this button. Or let's say if you are using Mac OS or Linux, okay, so you may do so by picking up the appropriate option, right? So simply click on this download, one executable file will be downloaded, double click on that file and install it on your machine. But don't try it on your mobile. Okay, mobile, it won't work. Okay, it is very resource hungry. It requires minimum i7 processor, right, with minimum 8 GB of RAM. Okay, if it is 16 GB, it is definitely good, but minimum 8 GB is needed, right? So once you download this framework along with the models, now there are various models. Okay, so under models, you may populate it with say Quen 3.5, Quen, and so on. There are hundreds of models available. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to download the framework, then populate it with some free and open source model. These are all free and open source model. By clicking on this download button, you can pick any one of them and simply click on this download. So you need to populate that LM Studio framework with all these free and open source model. Now, once you have done this, okay, there is no need to be online in the next run. All right, because you will have the framework along with the model, that too on your local computer. So what you need to do is simply load those models and interact with those models without making any compromises on your privacy or secrecy, right? So I'll show you. I have installed it on my machine. Okay, I'll show you that is how it works. Okay, I'll show you that how it works. So as I said, this is LM Studio. Okay, so I'm opening up that application. Right, as I said, that it is very bulky in terms of resources. Okay, it is resource hungry. It will take little bit more time, but the beauty is from this point onwards, okay, you don't require even an internet connection. Okay, that is the best part of it. Now, as you can see here, in this case, I have downloaded these two models. One is the Gamma 2 2B and Llama 3.2 1B Instruct. All right. So simply click on any one of them as per your own need. Okay, let's say I'm picking up this Gamma 2 2B Instruct. Load the model. Once the model is loaded, now here I can type the prompt and I may interact without even in any internet connectivity. So I am secure. Whatever prompt I will type, whatever responses I am getting, those things will be stored on my local machine. So there is no threat to your privacy and secrecy, right? I hope you are getting me what I'm trying to emphasize here, right? So, and then I may upload, sorry, I may download n number of models depending upon my need. Okay, so I may eject it right now. I've downloaded. Because as I said, this is requires a lot of primary memory, hard disk space, because all those models are being run on your local machine. Okay, so this is LM Studio free download. All right. On the similar line, we have another platform, what they call it as the Olama. Okay, simply search Olama free download. Okay, for Windows. Okay, so if you click on the very first link, you will find Olama for Windows. You need to adopt the same procedure what I have narrated with regard to the, sorry, the LM Studio. That is, download it, double click, install it. Again, very resource hungry, and populate the tool with various free and open source model. Same strategy. Okay, there's nothing. It is exactly parallel. But few people, there's a feedback which I came to know that few people feel that Olama is better than LM Studio. Okay, maybe in terms of availability of number of models. Okay, now let me show you the demonstration of this Olama. Okay, so go to this Olama. Okay, right now I am running this Olama. All right. Now, as you can see here, it is. I have right now. I have loaded only one model in this case. Okay, that is the Llama 3.2. Okay, but if you click on this, okay, you have got these many options here. Now you may download any one of these model when you are online. So GPT OSS, then GPT OSS 20B, 120B, 27B, 12B, Gamma, Quen. These many models are available here. So right now I have downloaded this. So now here onwards, once again, I don't require any internet connectivity, right? So this is again very important framework for interacting with various LLM model without making any compromises on privacy and secrecy, right? Or security, right? So this is probably the next one. Now there is only one thing which is left, but I don't know whether we are almost done or we have got few more minutes with us, because it is 15:20 if I am not wrong, right? So just I wanted to demonstrate one important tool, which is what they call it as the RPA tool, that is robotic process automation tool, right? Under this RPA category, as a matter of fact, okay, you have got various commercially available tools. Okay, so UiPath is one of them. Okay, but out of all those 4 5 commercial products, UiPath is the only product which provides you something to play with, okay, on your own. So once again, okay, you don't require any computing background, any logical background for developing big projects. Okay, but what you require is you require uh, how to write prompt, that too in English. Okay, that is the only skill set which is needed, right? So I'll show you this again. In this case, again, you need not have to even write prompt. Okay, what you are supposed to do is, in this case, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to simply use your mouse click. That is more than enough for building projects. You don't require anything other than a mouse click, and that's why these tools are categorized as no code tools. Okay, but we do not have sufficient time, but I'll show you the glimpse of this particular tool. Okay, so as I said, that is UiPath is the only tool wherein you get this. Oh no, whether we are connected. Yes, so let me show you this UiPath. So I was referring to UiPath Community Edition. Download UiPath Community Edition. Something like this. You need to Google free download. Okay. Okay. This is the URL. If you feel like, you can note it down. Right. Simply sign up and then download. Okay. So once you download this, install it on your machine. Okay. Once you have installed it, rest of the part I'll show you. That is how it works. Okay, so you need to download this UiPath Community Edition, which is available free of cost. Okay, the only thing is you need to sign up with your Gmail credentials and download the file. After downloading, it is once again very resource hungry. Okay, it requires a lot of resources. Don't try it on lower configuration machine. Okay, but let's say if you have got i7, minimum i7 with 8 GB of RAM, it will work fine. Okay, right now I'm showing you the demonstration of this UiPath. Now, once again, very resource hungry. It will take a little bit more time to, yes. Now you can build fantastic projects using this UiPath. without writing a single line of code. Okay, without writing a single line of a code, right? So as you can see on the right hand side, you have got new project, processes, library, test automation, everything. There's some built-in templates are there, okay, and so on. I will not go into the little bit more detail, but I'll show you one small project which I have built using this. That is, this is my first project. I'm loading it. Okay. So what you need to do is on the left hand side, you have got very many things available here. You need to simply drag and drop those things into this area, what they call it as the workspace area. Okay. Say for example, I have developed this small project. The functionality is pretty simple. Okay, wherein I have generated a sequence. In the sequence, I am prompting the user to enter his or her name, and then I am putting a welcome message. That is the only functionality. So there is a sequence, the name of that sequence. What I did basically, I have searched for sequence here. Okay, sequence, and then drag and drop it. Then I've given a name called Atique to that particular sequence just for the identification purpose. Then there is an input dialog, okay, wherein it will ask the user, okay, and then it will ask the user to input his or her name. Okay, this is the functionality of this input dialog, and then it will put this particular message, that is the welcome message, on the screen for that particular user. So what I did, I have not written a code, rather I have picked up these sequence, input dialog and message box from this left hand side to this workspace area. So once you have done with this, that is drag and drop or copy and paste, you may say. Okay, you are almost done with that particular project. Now I am running it. Okay, so for running, simply click on this debug file button. Okay, it is compiling, that program is being executed, and you will get the so what is your name? Let's say I put my name as Mohammed Atik. All right, so say okay, welcome to this session. All right, so you can build, this is a very small activity I have demonstrated, but you can build fantastic projects. Even you can scrap data from websites. Okay, even you can record various activities on various websites, and but you have to have definitely permission for that. Okay, but you can do a lot of many things using this without writing a single line of a code, by simply dragging and dropping various structures from this left hand side to this workspace area and then executing it, right? So this is a very, very, very powerful tool, and it is called as the robotic process automation tool or RPA tool, right? So with this, we'll end up this session, right? Now, before winding up, let me put on record my sincere thanks to the MMTC Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University for giving opportunity to interact with such an august gathering. Okay, but before closing down, uh, I would love to take few questions if there are any. So, what I realized that you are still not in a position to ask anything, unmute yourself. But let's say if you can put it in your chat box, okay, I'll be happy to answer. Yes.
So participant, if you have any question, you can unmute themselves. I will permit to you unmute themselves. अगर किसी पार्टिसिपेंट को कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आप अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं, मैंने आपको परमिशन दी है अनम्यूट करने की।
जी, थैंक यू सर।
वेलकम।
तो आप लोग अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं, कुछ पूछना है, कुछ फीडबैक देना है, वो भी चलेगा, या और भी बहुत सारे अप्रिहेंशन हो सकते हैं आप लोगों के। तुम्हाला असं वाटत असेल सर हे AI जो आहे इज अ डिस्रप्शन, वी कैन डिस्कस ऑन दोज डायमेंशन, दैट इज नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम। इट इज डेफिनेटली अ डिस्रप्शन, बट देर इज नो वे आउट। हमको इसको अडॉप्ट करना होगा, इसकी अच्छी चीजें लेनी होंगी, बुरी चीजें छोड़ देनी होंगी। ठीक है ना? तो आप में से कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे या कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहेंगे? आई विल बी हैप्पी टू आंसर. Or if you wish to comment on the overall quality of the session, again I'll be happy to take it as nice session, sir. Apart from nice session, anything else? Okay, चलिए. तो कोई कुछ पूछना चाहेगा? So ठीक है sir, it's over to you. I think no more questions. There are two possibilities. Okay.
I think no question, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank you.
sparing the valuable time here. A
Thank
behalf
you.
of UGC Malaya Mission Teacher Training Center, Dr. Babu Sambrat Marathwada University, especially thanks to Mohammed Atik, sir, for sparing the valuable time here. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Okay, I'll take your leave. Thank you once again.
Thank you.